Yesterday, many of you may have already watched this, Premier Dr. Phophi Ramathuba delivering a high-stakes State of the Province address, and it sets the agenda for the year ahead. The Premier's address focused on inclusive growth and aggressive job creation, fighting poverty and reducing the high cost of living. Let's talk about some of the tenets and the highlights of her plan and how she is intending on navigating the province through economic hardships and headwinds. Joined this morning by Dr. Phophi Ramathuba. Dr. Ramathuba, Premier, good morning. Welcome to the program. Appreciate your time. If we look at your State of the Province address yesterday, you began with that heartfelt reflection on the impact of floods in Limpopo. We saw it playing out in real time. Our reporters were there, and one of the observations we made were just how not ready the province was in terms of infrastructure to manage the full impact of those floods. Just perhaps share with our viewers, especially those, your constituents in Limpopo, again, how the government, the provincial government, plans on supporting them in the months ahead.
Good morning, Emmanuel. Good morning to all your viewers out there. Yes, indeed, the devastating hardship that has been also as a result of the flood. You are quite correct that when you look at the infrastructure that we've been constructing, it was not necessarily informed by the future which we are in today. Hence, you will see that the low-lying bridges, as an example, have caused a lot of damage, especially in the loss of lives that we have lost. But however, we then also indicated in the speech that as early as last year, when we experienced around this time around between January and March floods, which were not at the similar magnitude like we have this year, we did make a provision through Treasury wherein we ring-fenced funds in case of a disaster, because our experience was that national, even after classifying, they take time to disperse those resources that would be required. Like we gave an example that we are only receiving 500 million now in February of the floods for 24-25. Now, this time around, while we are waiting for national, we have begun to put, firstly, ring-fence our own funds from the provincial equitable share, also looking at reprioritizing the current budgets that we're having. The MEC next week will outline exactly in terms of the rands and cents what is going to happen. But most importantly, from the provincial government, the Premier leading a team wherein you are looking at project managers addressing all, whether it's roads, all the infrastructure challenges, to say what are their plans, HODs coming to present, and also that team will continue with receiving fortnightly reports as to how far are we, whether it's this road D, whatever, whether it's this school, whether it's this library or this clinic.
You know, MEC, these are large sums of money that you're talking about that have just landed. South Africa isn't, you know, we aren't new to how people look at that money and look at a way of getting their hands on it without being qualified to deliver on projects, without being qualified to make sure that those projects are delivered on time and in budget. We've seen a number of projects as well just abandoned. What guarantees can you give your constituents that this time around the right infrastructure with the right expertise will be delivered by the right people who've been properly vetted, and we won't hear in another State of the Province address in the future how much money was lost to corruption?
I think even yesterday we did outline clearly the reality that we are alive to what we call in our street language floodpreneurs, who when they hear us talking about these billions, they start salivating and working with some of our officials, start to see how can they cut corners, taking advantage and abusing, because once national declare a disaster, remember, we don't follow the full supply chain processes because it's a disaster. You don't have to advertise for 21 days. So people start to cut corners. We're alive that people inflate prices because they know it's during disaster. And they are aware that the AGSA will only audit them at the end of the financial year. But then that is why we became proactive and bring in even our own internal audits, our own structures that are there, put in systems that are in place so that the audit doesn't wait for the project to be finalized. A project must be followed even after, just even after the appointment of contractors. We want to see each and every one a project being audited before we even go further, so that corrections can be done before millions of rands are spent on a project, and the SIU will have to go to tribunals, to everywhere, to want to recover the losses. But at that time, people would have lost their lives. Like I'm indicating, we even outline the processes, and the MEC for Treasury will further even take the people of Limpopo and this country into confidence next week, Tuesday, when he's delivering his budget, where they will be able to see that we are ready to those who are going to behave as if when the flood washed away our bridges, they even washed away our ethics and morals.
Well, I mean, we've got examples everywhere, including in your own province, of how that does happen anyway. People have their own agendas to pursue, and people want to make money no matter what. You use the term floodpreneur again when we know that so many lives were lost. People's livelihoods were lost as well. It makes what you've just said even more insidious, and suggests that the province itself, especially with this 500 million plus budget that you're now going to have to curate, makes it more important that you have a dedicated team that is looking at every single contract. And when you, and that's really where I'm going to next. I mean, don't you think that there should be a special procurement team that is going to take a razor-sharp look at whether companies weren't just created overnight 10 days ago, you know, to be able to benefit, have the expertise in building the infrastructure that you need, and whether all the service providers who've now been given those multi-million rand contracts, their names, their details, companies and directors are shared with the public. Are you making that commitment?
We're definitely making that commitment. When we say the project management team that would have experts, especially within the construction and the built environment, because most of the rebuilding will be focusing on infrastructure. They will also, it's also comprising of financial experts, those who are familiar with the PFMA, because even if we are to put up any team, we must also guard against having a team that will be working or operating outside the PFMA. We still need to comply. And what is good is that PFMA and South African Treasury regulations and policies are very clear, and they've got ways on how to assist us as government. Like I'm saying, we already, before you talk about the AGSA, you already have your own internal audits that should be able to assist us. And we also, for each and every procurement a process on a project, before a contractor is appointed or it's finalized, that contract, you have got the quality assurance, a mechanism that will address all the issues you are saying. Quality assurance will be looking at if these contractors, they do have the track record. It is not a company that was registered 8 days ago. We will definitely are going to. You should understand that as government, we know what is at stake for us. We know what it takes. People are losing, and some parts of the country have lost confidence in how government does its things. So as Limpopo, we said it even from last year, that we are not going to tolerate any of this, and we have everything to lose if we allow people to continue with what has been happening in the past. And that is one area which we have been firm, and we are not going to be apologetic to that. If it means we become unpopular, it is the risk that we are prepared to take, because it's not helping the country at all.
I mean, I want to ask you about jobs, and of course, this type of procurement and infrastructure spending is an opportunity for people to get jobs. But what I want to hear from you, Premier, as you've said, that money has now landed. I want to hear that there is a reception committee of experts who are going to make sure that not one single rand or cent is going to end up in unscrupulous hands, with the assistance of senior officials in provincial government. Yes, we all understand. We've got the PFMA, we've got the MFMA. We've got all the frameworks of accountability in place. They do not work. They cannot inoculate us from greedy, opportunistic individuals who will steal from the poor to line their own pockets. That's why we're at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, for example. Is there a committee locked and loaded in place to make sure that not 1 cent of the disaster disbursement for infrastructure development is going to get lost to corruption?
Like I've just indicated to you, I've met them already. The team led by a project manager who understands the built environment, meaning he coming from the engineering profession. The team is there to really look into that. And now that you are saying confirming, we have already confirmed that the money, even though it's from the last year, because there are 2 things or 3 things that might happen. The first one, it might be those that I'm saying floodpreneurs are already starting to work with our officials to make sure that they get whatever, get away with stealing from the poor. Secondly, money can stay and not being spent, and next year it's returned back to treasury, having not been spent, and people still languishing in poverty, not just only in poverty, but the devastation of children not being able to go to school when it's raining, workers not going to go to work because there are no bridges where they can cross, economy, those who are delivering goods and services, that can happen. The third one is what we are looking forward to, which that's why this team that we have established, which is reporting to the Director General on a technical level and to the Premier on a political level. This team, we must make sure that every little cent, it goes to where it's intended to. It makes sure that the bridges are repaired. We've already met with South African National Defence Force. They already have raised their own challenges, which is making them not to fast track the program of Welisizwe, and we'll be working with them, with the Minister of Defence, so that we can be able to get that assistance, because budgets can be there, but if it's the planning, if the organization, if the project management, it's where we need to strengthen. It's where our focus currently is. And we want to reassure the people of Limpopo that the Premier will be jealously guarding against this process to make sure that our people equally live a comfortable life like people in other parts of this world.
Yeah. Premier, you might perceive my next question as unfair, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In the aftermath of just beaming to our viewers visuals of the community members that you're referring to, who are the ones who need every rand and cent to be spent properly, those who don't have homes this morning because of the destruction post-floods, those who've lost their loved ones standing outside waiting for assistance, that if and we can just limit it to just this thing that we're saying, you've expressed so much confidence in your team, jealously, you use the term, jealously guarding the budget for infrastructure development, that if any of that money goes astray, you'll be the first one to say, I failed and I will vacate my office.
If things do not go well because of my negligence, because I was part of those that saw the wrong and did nothing. If I'm one of those who, when the money is supposed to go and serve the people, I did not provide my oversight. Hence, I said to you earlier on, this is the risk that I'm going to take, even if it means I become so much unpopular, because a lot is at stake. We've lost lives here. We've retrieved already 27 human remains. People are gone and they will never come back. So where we are given an opportunity to can recover, let's use this opportunity to recover. Because in other way, when a life is lost, you can never recover that life. But when a bridge is swept away, you can have an opportunity to rebuild that bridge and be able to. Human beings are human beings. I'm working with a lot of that. The wrongs will happen, but how must I be judged? What did I do when I see the rot happening?
Yeah. And Premier, it's a really honorable position that you have taken. As you say, you're going after people and their pockets. It can be a very dangerous and deadly affair in South Africa. So we wish you well in that endeavor of making sure that not 1 cent is lost to corruption. And we also encourage you to take extra care of yourself, your family, and your loved ones, as we've seen before in South Africa, and you've already acknowledged it can be quite a dangerous endeavor. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it. The Premier of the Limpopo Province, Dr. Phophi Ramathuba.